So welcome to 10.0. I'm going to talk about the Battleship commander skills in this video. I feel like I've got a pretty reasonable handle on what I want to be running on my battleships now, as more of the standard build. That's kind of what I want to talk about today is like, what's your base battleship build that you should probably be running on every battleship, unless you want to do something specific. So you're seeing Deadeye in action right now, and that's what I got to talk about real quick, is Deadeye is mandatory now on every battleship. It's just too good. Basically what it does is it gives you 10% better dispersion when there are no detected ships within your concealment range. So that what that means is, as long as no red dots on the minimap are within your concealment range, which for Bourgogne it's somewhere in that 13-ish kilometer range, you'll see it once my concealment resets, right there. So as long as there's nothing within that green line, which the Yamato's outside of, we have 10% better dispersion. And now what that means is we have basically the tier 9 and 10 American dispersion module that fits in the slot 6 for 3 million credits. We get that on all of our battleships now. And we all know how good that module is for Montana and Iowa. So, yeah, it's kind of insane. And this poor Yamato is actually not having his Deadeye active because he has 14.1 kilometer concealment. So I'm ruining his Deadeye while still having my Deadeye. How crazy is that? And of course, when a battleship is angled, we're shooting HE because this is patch 10.0. I'm trying not to shoot HE all the time, but obviously when a battleship is angled, that is the right play. And we get a double permanent fire, and this guy's basically dead. So 150k in the first, 6 minutes. Yeah, Bourgogne's pretty nuts. Maybe I'll make a video on this entire game. I got some pretty insane damage numbers, but I just wanted to talk about Deadeye specifically and how good it is. I wanted to show an example before I get talking about builds and we're in port and all that stuff. Because this skill is so good. Nothing comes even close to being as good as this skill. It's absolutely insane. So yeah, Deadeye is nuts. And I think you should be running it on every single battleship. It is that good. You should be running it on Kremlin. You should be running it on Bourgogne, Montana, everything. Conqueror, Thunderer, everything. It's just that good. Shikishima. Now, obviously, there's diminishing returns when you get to the hyper-accurate battleships, like maybe a Thunderer. It's possible you don't run it, but, I mean, 10% better RNG, it's hard to give that up, man. So, because this skill is so good, and it relies on your concealment in order to be active, turns out concealment is also mandatory. So that's 8 skill points gone just like that, in my mind. You just have to take both of these on your battleships. They're just that powerful. So after that, then it's up to you, really. I like taking Emergency Repair Expert. It gives me an extra heal. This is basically old Superintendent. The way the meta is shaping out to be, where everybody's playing hyper passive and not pushing ever, results in a meta where you can disengage very easily as a battleship player. So situations where fire prevention will be useful are limited to when you just go all in. I find that if I get lit on fire a couple times and I'm forced to use my damage control to stop the fires, I can often go dark or get myself into a position where I'm behind an island and I'm no longer in trouble. So that's why I'm running the Emergency Repair Expert, which is basically old Superintendent, which is a whole skill point more expensive. It used to be a 3-pointer. But I can definitely see fire prevention being a very good skill as well. So honestly, I think your build should be for a 14-point commander. You should get Concealment and Deadeye for 14 points. And then for 18, honestly, either one of these. Whichever one you're feeling. They're both very, very good skills. I think these two are basically useless. The meta is so long range, at least at tier 10. I'll get into where these can be useful. But it's not at tier 10. These are horrible skills for 4 points at tier 10. You're never getting in that brawling range, ever. I've been trying, and it's basically impossible unless you get no Thunderers, no Conquerors, no CV, no Henry IV damage build, Hindenburg damage build on the enemy team, and you get a good map that allows you to push in with island cover, all that's, like, it's... The odds of you getting all of that in one game is so low that secondary builds are basically dead at tier 10, in my opinion. They're just impossible to run. I mean, I'm going to keep trying, but because I like brawling so much, I'm going to keep trying with these skills, but I don't think they're very good at tier 10. Now, I take Adrenaline Rush for my 3-pointer. That one's debatable. You could definitely run basic survivability. I just think the reload is just so handy. Now, to talk about super heavy AP shells for a second, don't take this. The meta is HE spam, okay? Don't take this. This is going to give you even more fire tick on your ship, right? 30% more fires. How crazy is that? And 5% extra damage from your AP shells is not enough to counteract that, so not good. Long-range secondary battery shells, there's an argument to be made here for this one. It's possible once I have a 21-point commander, you see I only have 19 points, I'll take long-range secondary because you can get another tier 3. But it'll likely go to basics of survivability or expert AA marksman. Turns out full AA builds might actually be possible with a 21-point commander. It's something I've thought about. I haven't really tried it out yet, but a full AA build on a Bourgogne might be pretty nasty. Or something else with really good AA, like maybe a Montana, Ohio, Vermont kind of thing. Maybe a Shikishima, Slava. These ships have pretty good AA, so if you go full AA, you might be able to just wreck some enemy planes. Now, I don't really think enhanced torpedo protection is really worth it. You're not really taking that many torps with how passive the meta is, which is really hard on destroyers. It's just a little side note. It's pretty hard to play a torpedo DD when all the battleships are sitting at 20 kilometers. Now, I think the tier 2 and 1 skills, it's basically whatever you want to take. The only things I think are mandatory on battleship builds right now are Deadeye concealment. Realistically, that's all I think is mandatory at this point. You can take kind of whatever you want for tier 3. You can take whatever you want between these two for your last tier 4. And you can take whatever you want down here. I'm running AA on Bourgogne because, again, I don't really need vigilance because I'm not pushing in, usually, into torpedoes. I've gotten used to playing without priority target. So if you're someone who's so used to playing priority target, just take it. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I've just gotten used to playing without it, so I can take something like expert AA or AA gunner. Consumables enhancement, I don't think is all that great. It might be okay, but I think the extra AA, or better yet, in a lot of cases, main battery turret traverse speed, grease the gears, is usually the best one to take for a battleship. So I'm often switching between this one and this one, depending on how fast my turrets turn on my battleship. If I have fast turrets and I have decent AA, I'll upgrade my AA, why not? But if I have slow turrets, I have to take grease the gears. And then tier 1s, gun feeder is very nice. I'm basically taking this on everything because you just have to be able to switch to HE and AP quicker. Just how the meta goes. Pyrotechnician is bad. 1% fire chance is not worth it at all. But I guess it's a 1-pointer, so if you have extra points, maybe. Consumable specialist, I don't really see this one being all that good. Maybe 10%. I haven't really been using it. Emergency repair specialist, maybe, because your heal and your damage control are very important. Incoming fire alert. This is a horrible skill for the game. It reduces a lot of the awareness that you need to have to play the game. It makes the game too easy, in my opinion, and I just hate this skill so much. But if you struggle with long-range shots and not being able to see them coming, that'll let you know when they're coming. And preventative maintenance is always a good skill. So that's kind of my thoughts on the skills for battleships right now. Now, you'll notice I have one undistributed skill point, and that's very important. This is what I'm doing on every ship right now. I have 19-point commander, so I could get one of these skills yet, right now, right? Because I have 1 point left. I don't want to get that right now. While sure, it is free to redistribute right now, later on, it won't be free to redistribute all these skills. So you're either going to be paying doubloons, or you're going to be paying, I think it's 300,000 Elite Commander XP, which I only have 438,000, right, to respec a whole commander. Yes, they did reduce the cost by half of the old 19 pointers, so you don't have to spend credits to reduce the cost by half. But with the way they did the jump from 19 to 20 to 21 point commanders, the XP jump to get those skills means that the retraining cost jumps exponentially with that. So it's like, it goes from 120,000, or yeah, I think it was 120,000. Maybe it was 190 before. I'm getting my numbers mixed up. I think it was 190,000 before to redistribute everything. It's going to be 300,000 with 2 more skills. So, what I'm doing is I'm trying to make a build that I'm going to like with 18 points, and then once I've earned the extra 2 points, then I can just throw it in whatever skill I want, master it, and never have to respec. That's why you're going to see undistributed skill points 1 up here a lot of the time for me. I just don't want to have to deal with the redistributing cost later on. Obviously, if I'm messing around with builds, I'm going to be changing things, but I know that I'm going to leave a build on some ship, some random ship that I'm not playing right now. Like, let's just, I think I played a Fuso game. Let's see what my Fuso build has right now. It's only a 14 pointer, so I did use it all up, and you can see Concealment Expert Deadeye, right? It's just on everything. It just is on everything. Maybe a Scharnhorst has a 19 pointer. Yeah, you can see a full secondary build Scharnhorst, and I have 1 skill point left over. Obviously, Gunfeeder would be pretty handy for a Scharnhorst, but I don't want to forget that this captain has used up all of its skill points before the free redistributions are gone. My whole point is I don't want to waste Elite Commander XP once I get some 21 point commanders. So it's probably playing a little too much for the long term because it's going to take forever to get 21 pointers, but that's my thoughts on it, because most of the tier 1 skills, they're actually not that useful, in my opinion. They're really not. So now to talk about the best part about the update is this right here. Lucian's is train for Hindenburg. You see that? He's my Hindenburg captain. So if we go up to tier 10, go over to Hindenburg, you click on him, and in fact, look at what you can do in port. You click on it, no commander, recall commander, bam, instantly back from the Scharnhorst. Perfect. And of course, we have different skills for a cruiser than we do have for a battleship. So any premium that you have, which means you don't have to do the retraining, right? So if I wanted to switch Lucian's onto my Kurfürst, I would have to do the retraining. So that's where it's expensive, and you can't do this. But as long as there's no retraining cost, which is for every single premium, you can switch your special commanders like Halsey, Lucian's, Kuznetsov, all these special guys onto your premiums of other ship classes for free and get good builds on them. It's not like you're limited to your cruiser build or your DD build. This is such a nice change because you can just assign your best commander to a different class and you get a totally different set of skills. This is an excellent change, and it allows for a lot of interesting builds to be had in the lower tiers with premium ships with really cool commanders, right? Because Lucian's is really fun for a secondary build. He's also really fun for a destroyer or a cruiser build because of the main battery loader. There's some really nice things here, right? So for example, Lenin, sure, I can pull my Kremlin captain over. Yeah, why not? Oh, but what if I want to play Kutuzov? Hey, let's get Kuznetsov as well, and I've got a whole new set of skills. This is such a nice change. You just have to remember, it only applies to premium ships. So you need to have your special commander on whatever silver ship you're most likely to use him on. So for me, Kuznetsov sits with my Kremlin. But For you, it might be something different. And you just need to pick whatever ship, silver ship, you play the most. Maybe that's a Nevsky or a Kavros or a Grozavoy, right? Whatever silver ship you play the most of that nation, you should have your special commander on. And then all of your premiums, right? Even Slava, right? I could have Kuznetsov on my Petropavlovsk and have a totally different build for battleships and just move him over to Slava really easily. It's an awesome, awesome, awesome change. I love the way they've done this. And in fact, you can see I've moved Halsey off of my secondary battleship commander but cut onto my Des Moines, because obviously Confederate Des Moines is just insane. But I can still use Halsey as my battleship secondary commander because of this change. I love this change. It makes your special commanders so much better and so much more useful. Now, I did talk about a secondary build. I have been trying it out, and the best ship that I've found for it is actually the tier 7 German battleships. This is the best I have been able to do with secondaries right now. It is basically all in. Preventive maintenance. I'm taking IFHE on Scharnhorst. Basically what this does is it gives your 105mm secondaries the ability to pen 32mm, like that. And you can see our range there, 9.5 kilometers. Now here's the big thing. Secondary ranges got buffed, and your dispersion got nerfed. Okay? So what that means is secondaries are going to be useful on ship tiers that got the biggest buff in range. So Kurfürst went from 11.7 to 12.5, which is a pretty good buff, but tier 10 meta right now is so far away that 12.5 is basically impossible. Tier 9 went to 12 kilometers, so, 11.5 on the Pommern and Freddy to 12. It's not as big a jump, and you're often facing tier 10s, so it's pretty hard to do. Tier 8s actually got screwed over, I think, in this change, because they actually don't gain that much range at all. Tirpitz went from 11.3 to 11.5. That's basically nothing. That's basically nothing for a nerf in accuracy. And of course, tier 8s often face tier 10s these days. So where do I go? I went to tier 7. Tier 7 is a tier that's never facing tier 10s. You're never facing you're never facing Thunderers, you're never facing Midways, FDRs, all these things, MVRs with their AP bombs. And you got your secondaries buffed from 8 kilometers to 9.5 kilometers. It's a huge range increase. And in fact, it makes the secondaries probably a little bit better than they were pre-patch. Maybe. It's arguable, but 9.5 kilometers is very doable in a tier 7. Very, very, very doable. So the whole reason this build works is because tier 7 matchmaker allows you to push in way more. That's basically it. Honestly, the whole problem with secondary builds is that DPM and survivability of cruisers and battleships, to some extent, goes way up at tier 10, right? Cruisers all get heals at tier 10, and their DPM is absolutely insane, basically ignoring most of your armor and having insane fire chance. But you can see our secondaries are already opening up. And this ship is just great fun when you get to push like this. The DDs have less powerful torps, they don't have as good detection. The whole meta of tier 7 is set up more for pushing and brawling, I think. And the great thing about Scharnhorst, Gneisenau, basically the similar ships, is that you have armor that actually works at this tier. Obviously, we all know how useless Colorado Nagato armor is. At this tier, you at least have deck armor, upper belt armor that can bounce shells. Obviously, your superstructure is a big weakness, but you can just push in more with this. You can see just how far advanced I am on this map. Obviously, this is a very, very good map for pushing. Let me be clear. You do need to be lucky on the map still. But we're not even 5 minutes into this game, and I'm already on the enemy team's side at the A cap after pushing through mid. It's so much fun to play like this. And these secondary builds are actually pretty fun to use. Because you do, as much as it's a meme, you do get both sides of your secondaries sometimes working. They don't really hit anything, which is the main issue with that being considered a buff. But you can get things working. And obviously, the most interesting skill change for secondary builds is getting that 10% reload buff when an enemy ship is spotted within your secondary range. I think that's a very interesting skill and had the potential to make secondary battleships very, very good. The problem is, of course, getting into secondary range is suicide at tier 10 and tier 9 and tier 8. It's doable. It's doable in tier 9 and tier 8 as long as you're not facing tier 10 is the thing. But oftentimes you are facing tier 10s. And then you're just sad. And when I'm trying to play a brawling secondary battleship, I'm looking to just go in and charge and have a good time. And I don't want to have to deal with the RNG of getting into tier 10 games, which will just ruin my entire experience for like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever the game timer is. I want to just go in and have a good time. And that's why tier 7 is so nice for me, is I can just go in, push, and have a really, really fun experience. Basically, most of the time. Even if you're facing tier 9s, it is actually doable. I actually didn't record a tier 9 one, but I faced some tier 9 Pommers and that kind of thing on North. And my div mate in that one was Maltese Knight, and he actually put up the video on his YouTube channel, which I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to go see that one. It was 2 Sharnors versus tier 9, and we pushed up and brawled and did a pretty awesome job, I would have to say. It was a really fun game. So if you want to see how this works in tier 9, you can go check that video out. It'll be in the description box below. But that's the thought process behind tier 7, is you're never facing tier 10, so you're most of the time able to brawl. Even against tier 9s, you're able to brawl. And that's why running Scharnhorst or Gneisenau Now is a very good pick. Now the differences between the two, Scharnhorst, you want to get IFHE, so you can full pen 32 millimeters of armor. The Gneisenau Now obviously has that built in, so you don't actually have to worry about that. Gneisenau Now guns have overmatch. They have kind of poor dispersion, but so does Scharnhorst. So overall, I'd say probably Gneisenau Now is a stronger ship overall. But they're both fun. Obviously, you get torps, you get to push, all that stuff. Scharnhorst guns are pretty anemic these days, but it's pretty fun. Now to cap off an already pretty long video on the Battleship Commander rework, I want to show you probably the funniest game I've had so far with Deadeye. Notice that was a blind shot. I just kind of predicted where he would be going, and we got 2 Citadels. Roma is actually amazing with Deadeye. The problem with this ship has always been its crappy dispersion. So giving it 10% better dispersion most of the time is amazing. This ship is actually really good now. Because you have 11.7 kilometer detection in this battleship, which is nuts. Which means your Deadeye is basically always activated, so you're always getting massively better dispersion. Or ships are close enough to you that your dispersion likely doesn't matter quite as much. It's sad to me that this is the way the meta is going. Obviously, this game, tier 8 versus tier 9s, it's not quite as passive, obviously. You know, 12 kilometer range. Some people are pushing, some people aren't. I think tier 10 is just going to be the tier to stay away from, truly. Thunderer, Conquerors, Henrys, all the HE DPM, because it's not just battleships, right? So why don't I talk about that for a little bit to end this video off. The meta has not shifted too drastically. I think a lot of people are misunderstanding how the meta has changed because of the Commander rework. Deadeye did not magically make all of the tier 10 matches be 20 kilometers HE battleships sniping at each other. Sure, it might have been the straw that broke the camel's back, but I don't think that 10% better dispersion at long range was enough to suddenly shift the meta from being super brawl focused and pushing in focused to now suddenly everybody's sitting at the back. It simply was the final straw that meant that we're gonna have this incredibly passive matchmaker. Because let's be honest, pushing in a battleship wasn't easy last patch. Not many people did it. Thunder was still the best battleship in the game. It was overpowered. Just go look at my video from yesterday. That was all recorded pre 10.0 patch. Thunder is nuts. And the meta was all still passive. It's not like things have changed that drastically. So the main problem in my mind is Wargaming has made tier 10 too reliant on high explosive. I think all tier 10 ships, HE is too good. That's destroyers, that's cruisers, and that's battleships. Obviously, carriers at tier 10 being so strong as well also contributes to a passive meta. If you push in tier 10, what happens? Do you get focused by the two Thunders on the enemy team? The Hindenburg or the Henry running the full DPM build? Possibly the gunboat DD, like a Kleber or something like that you'll just never be able to hit, that is just going to HE spam you. Oh, and by the way, the carrier that's going to set up a crossfire on you whenever you want to. Yeah, you're probably going to get focused like that if you push in, because you're going to be the easiest target to hit. Obviously, you're the easiest target to hit when you push in. You're signaling to the enemy team, hey, look at me, I'm the closest to you. Better shoot me because you're going to have the best chance of hitting me and dealing damage. It makes sense why you're getting focused. It's just sad because that's kind of the way the game has been trending for a long time now. I don't think that this patch has dramatically changed the way the meta is. I think it's just shown to more people in the game just how passive this game is and how much you're rewarded for playing at the back. And now more people are realizing, hey, if I play at the back, I don't have to deal with the CV constantly striking me, causing a crossfire with the enemy team whenever they want to. I don't have to deal with these long-range HE spammers if I'm outside their range, right? If I just play outside of 17 kilometers, the full DPM Hindenburg is going to have a tough time hitting me, or the Worcester, or the Des Moines. The torpedo boats, they're going to have a tough time torping me if I sit at 18, 20 kilometers because their torps don't reach that far, right? It's just human nature to do that after you've been hit so hard so many times just trying to push in. As a side note, that Nelson got incredibly unlucky there. We got really lucky with the dispersion there, hitting his overmatchable 25mm plating at the back there. Obviously, Nelson Citadel is massive, but it's pretty unlikely at these ranges to hit that thing like that. But Roma's pretty nuts now. You got nuts armor, you've got pretty good dispersion now. Assuming people are outside of 11.7. That Alaska did ruin my Deadeye there. Still got Citadel somehow. Yeah, I think this skilled in Deadeye is just showing to Battleship players that, hey, if I sit outside of my detection range of any ship, not only am I getting better dispersion, but I don't have to deal with all the frustrating parts of this game. Like a Kitakaze just farming me from over islands, like a carrier constantly striking me, like obviously a Thunder it's pretty hard to get away from because with range mod you can get 28 kilometers, but you could dodge a little easier. It's just showing to players that if you push in, you die, and if you stay at the back, you don't have to deal with a lot of the frustrating things that this game has to offer. Obviously, the caveat here is that, well, the game is pretty boring to sit at the back and just snipe. And I will agree 100% with that. It is really, really, really boring to just sit at the back and just snipe. So that's why you're going to see me often trying to push in and play these silly, brawling battleship builds that don't work in the meta. But for the most people, I mean, if you're fine with just a chill experience where you're not getting frustrated, yeah, just sit at the back. That's how the meta's been shifting for the last couple years now. Probably since Conqueror got released, realistically. Since Conqueror got released, it's like been best to just sit at the back and snipe with HE. It's just being realized now, I think. But yeah, that's the way the meta's been moving ever since then. It's not like this is some new massive change in my mind. It's a tiny change that has suddenly opened everybody's eyes, I guess. And maybe that's sometimes what's needed. Small change for people to realize just how good a certain playstyle is, or how much easier a certain playstyle is. That's maybe sometimes what's required. Now, Roma, obviously, we've been having a great game here. 152k in a Roma. That's pretty solid. 7 Citadels. Yeah, gotten pretty lucky, but I mean, the dispersion has been pretty tight, I would have to say. For a Roma, it's been pretty nice. Now to just end this game off, I'll talk about some solutions, because you shouldn't just complain about something if you're not going to try and offer a solution. I don't know. I actually don't know what the solution is. Honestly, it feels like basically removing HE from the game is what would be required at this point. Because even if you nerfed HE into the ground, you've trained people at this point to spam HE from the back of the map. So you'd have to be pretty dramatic in the change to get people to push in again. It's pretty sad how little survivability. I'm talking about battleships right now, because for farmers in their cruisers or destroyers, battleships are the #1 target, obviously. Battleships are the target to farm out for everybody looking to get big damage. And so for a battleship to push in, you're just walking into death, basically. And there's not really much for survivability, because as you saw, Deadeye is mandatory now, in my mind. And I think this game and other games like it will prove to you, and you should use it yourself. I think you'll see that Deadeye is basically mandatory now, because the skill is so good and makes some ships just work, right? Like, we just slapped that Lexington. So with Deadeye being mandatory, concealment's mandatory, because that makes Deadeye work better. Then you're left with 4 points left. You only get one more 4-point skill. So do you take fire prevention? Do you get an extra heal? What do? At the 3-point skill, are you taking adrenaline rush, or are you taking basic survivability? There's so many choices you have to make, which I guess was Wargaming's intention. So there is choice that you have to make, but it's all compromise, where either you're making your ship worse in its combat power just to try and tank a little bit more, and let's be honest, a little bit of fire prevention and basic survivability won't save you from a Thunderer or some other ship just from spamming you. Now, as a note, sometimes you get screwed by RNG. Yeah, that just happened. As a little side note, that one tilted me a little bit. But and then you look up at the top right, and we have 9 Citadels. So maybe RNG gives and takes a little bit. Yeah, survivability of battleships is, like, I think, at an all-time low with just how powerful high explosive has become. And considering that cruisers got some buffs in this patch in terms of their HE DPM and their damage output, yeah, battleship survivability is at an all-time low, I think, considering where the game has been at and what ships have been added to this game. So I think this meta is here to stay unless Wargaming does something really dramatically different. Because if you're playing a battleship, why on earth would you want to push in and just die just so that some, Henry IV player can farm out his 200k damage for free, right? You want to have a good time too, so you're going to stay at the back because that's the only way to not get farmed out. And it's sad. So I don't know what the change is, but thanks for watching, guys. This is my thoughts on how your battleship should be set up, all for long range accuracy.